The world of shinobi has always carried more questions than answers. The more one studies the layers of its history, the more one begins to suspect that the events of Naruto's life are not coincidences, but the continuation of something far older. The story begins with a single thread, the idea that destiny is circular, and that every generation simply reenacts an older truth hidden beneath the surface of chakra itself. Naruto Uzumaki was called many things: an outcast, a vessel, a savior. But there is a growing theory that his soul was not born for the first time in this era. Rather, it has resurfaced countless times, reborn whenever the world approached another breaking point. The sage of 6 paths once taught that chakra connects all living things. Yet what if that connection is not only energy, but memory? When chakra flows between generations, it could carry traces of consciousness, faint memories that gather in certain individuals more than others. Naruto, then, might be a vessel of accumulated memory, not only of Asura, but of every being who carried the same will of harmony before him. This would explain the strange familiarity others feel in his presence. Even the tailed beasts, once embodiments of chaos, could sense something ancient within him. Kurama's recognition was not just emotional, it was instinctual. In some distant age, before names and nations, there may have existed a pure essence of balance, a will born from the world's first light. That essence has wandered through countless reincarnations, searching for a form that could finally unite every fragment of itself. Naruto, at last, became that form. The Nine Tails' relationship with him is evidence of this. Kurama had seen centuries of hatred, countless jinchuriki, and endless cycles of betrayal. Yet when he looked into Naruto's eyes, his hostility faltered. Perhaps he remembered something, the presence of that same light that had once comforted the beasts when Hagoromo divided the Ten Tails' chakra. If Naruto's soul was part of that first light, then the bond between man and beast was destined to converge again through him. The great Toad Sage's prophecy adds another layer to this theory. The child of prophecy was never meant to refer to one man, but to the manifestation of this recurring consciousness. Each age brings forth 2 vessels, one who carries the power of empathy, and one who carries the burden of solitude. The younger always bears Asura's will to unite, the elder, Indra's need to control. Yet these are not separate entities, but alternating halves of the same being. When Nagato appeared, his compassion was twisted by despair, and the cycle tipped toward destruction. When Naruto appeared, the same energy chose reconciliation instead. The prophecy, therefore, might not predict a single savior, but the rhythm of balance between hope and ruin. Sasuke's connection to Naruto supports this. Their rivalry was not random fate, but the reappearance of an ancient duality. Together, they form the living reflection of yin and yang, opposing yet complementary, incomplete without each other. The sage of 6 paths created 2 sons to maintain equilibrium, but their descendants forgot that purpose. Each generation's conflict is simply an echo of that first imbalance. In Naruto and Sasuke's final battle, that balance was finally restored. Neither truly won, because victory was never the goal. The cycle's harmony was. When examining Naruto's growth, one finds that his power always expanded through connection, not conquest. Every major transformation was born from understanding others. Iruka's compassion, Jiraiya's faith, Nagato's regret, Kurama's trust. Even the 6 paths. Sage himself only appeared to those who had bridged the gap between hatred and empathy. This suggests that chakra responds not to strength, but to resonance. The more Naruto's spirit aligned with others, the more chakra flowed through him. His body became a conduit, harmonizing scattered frequencies into one pure tone. The Rasengan reflects this concept perfectly. It is energy without a fixed nature, swirling endlessly, neither still nor chaotic. When Naruto infused it with his wind release, he gave it purpose without corrupting its balance. The technique became a symbol of his soul, controlled chaos, guided by compassion. Many see it as a weapon, but in essence, it is creation itself, a miniature world in motion, bound by harmony rather than restraint. If chakra holds memory, then perhaps jutsu are the language of those memories. Fire represents ambition. Water symbolizes adaptability. Earth anchors resolve. Wind embodies freedom. And lightning channels decisive will. The elemental nature one inherits might not be random, but shaped by the subconscious memory of past incarnations. Naruto's affinity for wind suggests an ancient longing for movement, a refusal to be confined by hatred or heritage. Wind cuts yet heals, destroys yet clears. It is the element of renewal, which is fitting for someone who exists to restart the world's cycle of peace. The existence of the Sage of 6 Paths supports the theory that chakra itself is alive. He referred to chakra as something that should connect hearts, but after his death, it became a weapon. What if, at its core, chakra resists being used for harm? Perhaps the reason peacekeepers like Naruto can unleash such tremendous power is because they align with chakra's original intent, restoration, not destruction. The world rewards those who act in harmony with its purpose. Power flows most freely through those who seek unity. Even the Uchiha, often thought cursed by emotion, may simply experience a distortion of that same principle. Their Sharingan responds to grief because grief is the most intense form of connection to loss. The eye awakens by reaching toward something that is no longer there, forcing memory into focus. This could mean the Sharingan is the visual manifestation of chakra's longing to reunite with what it lost. The same longing Naruto fulfills in another form, where the Uchiha's sorrow distills into sight. Naruto's empathy transforms into healing. Both are born from the same root, remembrance. If one views the entire shinobi world as a single organism, then every person is a cell, every bond a nerve, and chakra the bloodstream that moves through it. War is infection, hatred, a fever. Naruto's gift is not his strength, but his immunity, his ability to restore circulation where the flow has been blocked. When nations gather around him, when enemies forgive each other, it is not mere symbolism. It is the body of the world remembering how to heal. And yet, every healing leaves a scar. Peace never lasts forever. Theories suggest that after Naruto's era, the cycle will begin again, perhaps through another vessel who inherits the same light. Balance demands motion. The ocean of chakra cannot remain still for long. There is a theory that the shinobi world is not an evolving society, but a repeating one, a world locked in cycles of memory disguised as history. Each great era mirrors the one before, changing faces but not fates. The same archetypes reappear: the savior, the skeptic, the betrayer, and the one who watches from the shadows. If chakra truly binds the flow of human consciousness, then time within this world might not move forward as much as it loops, retracing itself through reincarnation. The pattern begins long before Naruto. Hagoromo, the sage of 6 paths, divided his power between his 2 sons, Asura and Indra. But their conflict was not merely a family feud. It represented the 2 instincts that govern all existence. One side seeks unity, the other control. One trusts in love, the other in order. Both necessary, both doomed to clash. Over centuries, their descendants forgot their origins and turned ideology into bloodlines. But the current never stopped. Each time the world fell out of balance, their souls returned, searching for resolution. In this age, those souls found form in Naruto and Sasuke. But there are those who believe the cycle extends even beyond them, that the hidden villages themselves were shaped by the residue of these reincarnations. The founding of Konoha by Hashirama and Madara mirrored the sage's story exactly. One dreamer and one realist, building paradise only to tear it apart. When the first Hokage offered peace through compassion, Madara demanded it through dominance. The leaf's creation was the sage's myth retold in stone and soil. What followed, war, loss, and eventual understanding, was not evolution, but repetition. This idea of eternal recurrence has unsettling implications. If every peace inevitably breeds another war, then perhaps the world itself cannot exist without conflict. Chakra may require polarity to function, just as electricity requires both charge and discharge. It might be that every age needs a Naruto and a Sasuke, not to end the cycle, but to keep the world alive through its friction. This would mean that peace is never meant to be permanent, only periodically rediscovered. Some scholars within the world speculate that the moon itself plays a role in this recurrence. The moon was created by Hagoromo and his brother Hamura to imprison the Ten-Tails body. It became both a seal and a reminder, a silent eye watching over the earth. Theorists suggest that the moon's presence may act as a kind of spiritual magnet, storing the world's excess chakra and memory, then releasing it when the balance tilts too far. Each generation's savior might therefore be born when the moon releases fragments of that memory, ancient energy seeking reconciliation once again. Naruto's connection to the moon is subtle but constant. His transformations often coincide with celestial imagery. The 6 paths cloak glows like lunar light, and his power reaches its peak beneath the night sky during the final battle with Sasuke. In contrast, Sasuke's eternal Mangekyō and Rinnegan are eyes of eclipse, the merging of sun and moon, light and shadow. Their meeting at the Valley of the End becomes a symbolic alignment, a cosmic reset. The same duality is woven through their mentors. Jiraiya and Orochimaru, once teammates under the same master, embody the same opposition. Jiraiya sought peace through compassion, Orochimaru through experimentation. Their bond mirrors Hagoromo's sons in yet another form. And between them stood Tsunade, the eternal healer, the bridge, the middle path, echoing the sage's role between his children. When patterns repeat this precisely across centuries, coincidence loses meaning. Many wonder then if destiny in this world is self-correcting. When hatred grows too strong, a child of hope is born. When peace becomes complacent, a shadow rises to challenge it. Naruto's kindness is not random, but a necessity, the world's immune response to its own sickness. It calls forth someone who remembers, even without understanding why, that connection must be restored. In that sense, Naruto is less a person and more a function of balance, a manifestation of the world's will to survive itself. Another theory extends this idea further, suggesting that the Sage of Six Paths himself never truly vanished. Instead, fragments of his consciousness linger in the network of chakra that flows through every living being. His appearance before Naruto during the war might not have been a vision or summoning at all, but a moment when Naruto's resonance matched the sage's frequency, a perfect alignment that allowed communication across time. That would mean Hagoromo is not gone, but always present, like an echo waiting for the right vibration to awaken him again. If this is true, then perhaps the so-called gods of the shinobi world, Kaguya, Hagoromo, Hamura, are not deities in the divine sense, but remnants of ancestral consciousness that humanity keeps reawakening. Each time the collective chakra of the world reaches a certain threshold, those memories rise to the surface, giving form to what mortals interpret as gods. Kaguya's return during the war could be the inevitable reappearance of this ancient memory, the destructive aspect of chakra seeking dominion once balance has tilted too far toward harmony. The sage, in turn, is its restorative side, light and shadow, rising from the same ocean. This would make the entire history of shinobi civilization not a linear tale, but a breathing cycle, expansion and contraction, creation and return. The introduction of technology in the Boruto era, for example, might not signal progress, but the world's next contraction. As humanity grows distant from the natural rhythm of chakra, the system destabilizes, calling forth new vessels to remind it of its origin. In that light, Naruto's peace was not an ending, but a deep inhale before the next exhale of conflict. Even the architecture of the shinobi world seems designed around memory. The Hokage faces carved into the cliff are not mere monuments. They are physical manifestations of continuity, ensuring that every generation literally looks upon the past. The stone holds chakra. The mountain, shaped by countless hands, absorbs the emotion of an entire village. Over centuries, these markers become spiritual anchors, preventing the world from forgetting itself completely. Memory, in this world, is sacred. Forgetting is the only true death. And perhaps that is why Naruto could never let go of anyone, not even his enemies. Each connection he formed was the reclaiming of a forgotten bond. He could not abandon Sasuke, because on some level he remembered losing him before. He could not hate pain, because he recognized the same wound within himself. Every act of forgiveness was the re-threading of history, a quiet defiance against the repetition of despair. The shinobi world has always existed under invisible hands. Nations rise, clans vanish, and legends are born. Yet the shape of history never truly changes. Some theorists believe this continuity is not the work of coincidence or fate, but of a silent system that predates even the Sage of Six Paths, a will woven into the fabric of the planet itself. In this view, chakra is not only life, but a guiding intelligence, a collective consciousness shaping events toward equilibrium, no matter the era. This system may be what the sage referred to when he spoke of the will of the world. Its influence can be traced through the way people unknowingly repeat ancient patterns. The foundation of Konoha, the wars between the great nations, the reemergence of heroes and destroyers, all mirror one another. When peace approaches stagnation, the world gives birth to conflict. When war consumes too much life, it produces a child like Naruto to repair the damage. It is almost mechanical in its rhythm, like a heartbeat too vast for any individual to sense. Within this self-correcting system lies another mystery: the will of fire. On the surface, it seems to be an ideology, the belief that love and sacrifice protect the village. But what if it is something literal, a hereditary spark passed through the chakra of Konoha's people? If chakra retains memory, perhaps it can also carry purpose. The will of fire may not be an abstract ideal at all, but a genuine frequency of chakra born from Hashirama's original dream. It circulates through the descendants of the village like a genetic code, resurfacing strongest in those who inherit his spiritual wavelength. This would explain why so many of Konoha's prodigies share an almost instinctive desire to protect others. It is not indoctrination, but resonance. Even those without blood ties, such as Naruto, are swept into it simply by living within that shared field of chakra. Over generations, that field has likely grown dense, a living network of emotion that influences thought and instinct. When the third Hokage spoke of the will of fire spreading to each new generation, he may have been describing not philosophy, but an actual transfer of energy. Yet where there is fire, there must be shadow. For every village united by compassion, another exists bound by fear. The will of stone. In Iwagakure, the will of water in Kirigakure, and the harsh isolation of the sand. These could all be manifestations of different chakra frequencies, regional wills formed from shared trauma. Villages born in violence develop defensive energy patterns that shape the minds of their people. Peaceful lands, on the other hand, cultivate chakra that encourages openness and trust. When these collective energies meet in battle, they clash not merely as armies, but as opposing consciousnesses. The wars of the shinobi are not just political. They are metaphysical. Naruto's strength might stem from his ability to harmonize these frequencies. His chakra does not reject foreign signatures. It synchronizes with them. In every alliance he forms, from Gaara to Killer Bee, this ability surfaces. When he fights, his energy adapts, resonates, and gradually softens even the most hostile intent. This gift may represent the natural evolution of chakra itself, an instinct to unify rather than divide. Through him, the world experiments with the possibility of coexistence. Another theory suggests that the Biju, the nine-tailed beasts, were never intended as weapons, but as guardians of this very balance. When Hagoromo divided the 10 tails chakra, he did not merely seal evil. He distributed potential. Each beast represents a principle of existence: patience, anger, freedom, loyalty, introspection, wisdom, curiosity, adaptability, and pride. They are embodiments of emotion, fragments of the human heart externalized. When these beings were enslaved, the world's balance collapsed because emotion itself was caged and corrupted. Naruto's greatest achievement was not defeating them, but reminding them of their true nature. When he called each Biju by name and listened to their stories, he restored something older than any jutsu: respect for the consciousness of emotion. By reuniting the beasts in understanding, he essentially reassembled the human soul scattered across centuries. The harmony of his chakra with theirs may have temporarily restored the world's original spiritual frequency, the same vibration that existed before humans learned to use chakra as a weapon. Kurama's death later on might therefore represent not loss, but transformation. When a portion of chakra disperses, it does not vanish, it returns to the flow. The fox's essence may have spread back into the world, merging with the collective pool that first birthed all chakra. In this way, Kurama becomes omnipresent, his energy echoing within every spark of power Naruto or anyone else draws upon. The will of the tailed beasts never truly dies. It simply changes shape. The same idea applies to human souls. In this universe, death rarely ends consciousness. The Edo Tensei technique, though forbidden, demonstrates that memory persists independent of the body. What is summoned is not a ghost, but an exact reproduction of a person's chakra pattern, their will encoded in energy. If such patterns can be called back, it suggests that nothing within this world system ever truly disappears. Every life contributes to an ever-growing ocean of memory. The dead are not gone. They are assimilated into the flow of chakra that sustains the living. This continuity could explain the recurring theme of inheritance. Every generation inherits not only teachings, but spiritual residue. Teachers and students are drawn together because their frequencies align. Jiraiya, Nagato, and Naruto all shared the same underlying wavelength. The sage's will of peace expressed through different hearts. When one perishes, another with the same resonance arises, like a candle lighting another from its flame. The individual changes, but the fire remains. In this light, prophecy loses its mysticism. It is not divine foresight, but recognition of the pattern, the world sensing the inevitable emergence of the next resonant soul. The great toad. Sage's visions are therefore less prediction than perception. He reads the flow of chakra, and from its movement, he sees which paths must cross again. Fate, then, is not commanded by gods, but by memory, repeating itself until harmony is achieved. There is comfort in that idea. The notion that every act of kindness, every sacrifice, and every bond is never wasted. It all feeds back into the current, shaping the next age's heroes before they are even born. The will of fire, the love of a parent, the sorrow of an enemy, all become ingredients in the world's quiet attempt to remember what it was before division. Among the more haunting theories surrounding Naruto's world is the possibility that the entire shinobi era exists within a dream. Not metaphorically, but literally. Some suggest that the infinite Tsukuyomi, cast by Kaguya and later sealed away, may have succeeded in a subtle way long ago. The argument is simple. What if the shinobi world we know is not the reality after the Sage of Six Paths, but the illusion created to keep humanity at peace within its own subconscious? The basis for this idea comes from the cyclical nature of Naruto's world. History seems to reset, ideals repeat, faces reappear across generations. The same patterns continue as though time were caught in a loop. Some theorists interpret this not as destiny, but as the repetition of a dream too stable to end. According to this theory, the sage never truly defeated Kaguya. Instead, the infinite Tsukuyomi evolved, a self-sustaining illusion that allowed human consciousness to persist indefinitely without realizing its imprisonment. Naruto's story, in that case, is the story of awakening within that illusion. His entire journey from isolation to connection mirrors the stages of lucid awareness. When he learns to perceive the emotions behind chakra, he begins to sense the seams of the illusion, the underlying unity beneath apparent separateness. The war, the moon, the resurrection of ancient souls all serve as symbolic triggers within the dream, drawing humanity closer to self-recognition. By uniting the world, Naruto may have unconsciously guided it toward a collective awakening, even if the illusion itself remained intact. This interpretation also gives new meaning to the recurring theme of the will. Every village's ideology, the will of fire, the will of stone, the will of water, could represent fragments of the original human consciousness splintered across countless dreamers. The sage once said that chakra was meant to connect people, but if everyone is connected within a single shared illusion, then that connection has never been broken. The world's conflict becomes a form of internal dialogue, the mind of humanity struggling to reconcile with itself. A related theory claims that the Uchiha clan's affinity for ocular powers originates from their proximity to truth. The Sharingan, Rinnegan, and Mangekyo are all eyes that see beyond surfaces. Their awakening through emotional trauma could symbolize the pain of glimpsing reality beneath the dream. Madara, who sought to cast the infinite Tsukuyomi again, might have recognized that humanity's suffering came from resisting the peace of illusion. To him, eternal sleep was not oppression, but mercy. Naruto, on the other hand, sought peace through conscious understanding rather than escapism, the choice to wake rather than to dream forever. The concept of perception is at the heart of all Uchiha power. Seeing, in their context, is not just visual, but existential. The deeper their understanding of pain, the more they pierce the veil of ignorance that conceals the true nature of chakra. In that sense, the Rinnegan, the eye that comprehends life and death, could represent full awareness within the dream, the final state of perception before transcendence. Sasuke's possession of that eye marks him as someone who has reached the edge of the illusion, yet chooses to remain within it, to guide others rather than abandon them. There is a subtler, more grounded version of this theory that does not rely on illusions, but instead proposes that the shinobi world itself is the dream of the 10 tails. When the creature was divided by Hagoromo, its consciousness did not vanish, but continued to sleep beneath the surface of reality. The tailed beasts, fragments of its mind, experience the world through their hosts, gathering emotion and experience that flow back to the slumbering core. If so, the shinobi world could be a mental construct born from the 10 tails' dreaming awareness, a spiritual ecosystem designed to process the complexity of human emotion, a necessary stage in the evolution of chakra's sentience. Naruto's role, then, is to calm the dream. His peace is not for nations, but for the sleeping entity that sustains existence. By reconciling the tailed beasts and uniting humanity, he soothes the chaos in the 10 tails' subconscious, ensuring that the world remains stable. This explains why peace feels temporary. Each era is merely a pause between breaths of a sleeping god. Some scholars extend this line of thought even further, claiming that the Sage of 6 Paths himself was not a man, but the first lucid dreamer within the 10 tails' mind. By recognizing his existence as thought, he gained control over the illusion, shaping chakra into physical reality. His descendants inherited fragments of that lucidity, the ability to alter the dream through will alone. Jutsu, in that case, are not manipulations of energy, but manifestations of thought within thought. The shinobi art becomes not science, but metaphysics. If true, this would mean that every powerful shinobi is a step closer to full awareness. The Sharingan, the Byakugan, Sage Mode, all are different degrees of lucidity, ways of perceiving the boundaries between consciousness and creation. Those who reach too deeply, like Orochimaru, risk destabilizing the illusion entirely, while those like Naruto learn to navigate it gently, maintaining harmony within the dream rather than tearing it apart. The chakra network that spans all life could therefore be understood as a neural web, the mind of the world. When shinobi form bonds, when chakra connects in battle or in empathy, they are linking thoughts within the same dreaming organism. Death, under this model, is not an end, but a shift of awareness, from an individual node back into the larger consciousness. This explains the ease with which souls appear, communicate, and even return. They are not summoned from elsewhere, but reactivated within the shared field of mind. Such interpretations change the nature of heroism. Naruto's triumphs are not victories in war, but milestones in understanding. His forgiveness, his refusal to sever bonds, his insistence on empathy, these are acts of remembering. Each time he reaches another person, he wakes a fragment of the dreamer. The war ends not because enemies are destroyed, but but because awareness spreads. Every smile, every tear, every hand extended across hatred is a moment of clarity within the illusion. It is no wonder, then, that the story of Naruto ends in peace, not conquest. The ultimate victory is the quiet realization that there was never truly an enemy, only other parts of the same being struggling to remember themselves. In this reading, Naruto is not just a hero within the world, but the world itself becoming conscious, one heartbeat at a time. There is a theory that beneath the politics and wars of the shinobi world lies a hidden pattern, an unseen law guiding the evolution of chakra and consciousness. According to this idea, the history of nations is merely the surface movement of a much deeper current, one that flows toward collective enlightenment. The shinobi age, with all its violence and sorrow, may be a necessary passage in humanity's gradual awakening to its own divine origin. Every generation of shinobi pushes that evolution a little further. The Sage of Six Paths was the first to recognize chakra as something that could unify all life. Naruto, thousands of years later, became the first to experience that unity completely, not as an ideal, but as a state of being. Between them, the world struggled to remember the same truth, producing countless figures who each embodied fragments of the whole. If one looks closely, the progression becomes clear. The early clans, like the Senju and Uchiha, represented primal aspects of chakra, body and spirit, life and perception. Later, figures like Minato and Nagato began bridging those aspects through intellect and empathy. By Naruto's time, the boundaries between these forces had nearly dissolved. This evolution parallels the way individual consciousness matures, from instinct to understanding to compassion. The shinobi world, seen as a single organism, is growing in the same way, learning slowly to feel. Some even believe that chakra itself is evolving through humanity. When the sage first spread it, chakra was raw, wild, difficult to control. Over generations, it became refined, shaped by emotion and intent. By the time of Naruto, it had adapted to human hearts so fully that it began to reflect them. The tailed beasts, once pure energy, developed personalities and desires. Nature itself began responding to human will, manifesting techniques that blurred the line between spirit and matter. It may be that chakra is alive, learning from its hosts, transforming through their experiences, growing closer to its original state of harmony. From this view, the wars that plagued the shinobi world were not meaningless cruelty, but the friction required for growth. Conflict forced humanity to confront its own imbalance. Each war produced a savior who carried the collective will to evolve. Hashirama sought peace through unity, Nagato through understanding, Naruto through empathy. Each step brought the world closer to remembering its source, the oneness that existed before chakra was divided. There are even whispers among scholars that chakra itself may one day transcend physical form entirely. The human body might only be a temporary vessel for this energy as it matures. The rise of sensory ninjas capable of feeling emotion across vast distances could be early signs of this shift. If chakra continues to refine itself, humanity may one day no longer need words, weapons, or even separate bodies to communicate. Thought alone would be enough. The world would return to the silence that existed before language, not ignorance, but perfect understanding. In this sense, Naruto represents the transitional point between physical and spiritual civilization. His story bridges the era of warfare and the coming era of resonance. The peace he establishes is fragile because it is not yet complete. It is the first moment of stillness before a greater transformation. The generations after him, those born into his world of relative calm, may be the ones to complete the process. When their chakra no longer clings to form or fear, the need for jutsu itself might vanish. Another layer of this theory concerns the genetic symbolism embedded in the clans. The Uchiha, with their eyes of perception, symbolize consciousness. The Senju, with their bodies of endurance, represent life. Their eventual unification through Naruto and Sasuke mirrors the reunion of matter and awareness. It is the spiritual equivalent of creation, remembering its own source. In this framework, every bloodline limit, the Byakugan, the Sharingan, the Rinnegan, is a different sto. That remembering. These powers are not arbitrary mutations, but expressions of the same root, the desire of chakra to perceive itself more clearly. The Rinnegan, called the eye of all-seeing, is the final manifestation of that desire. It grants control over life and death, because those are illusions that dissolve once one perceives unity. To awaken it is to glimpse the world without separation. Yet the burden of such awareness often breaks those who hold it. Nagato's despair and Madara's obsession reflect what happens when enlightenment arrives without emotional harmony. They saw the truth, but could not bear its loneliness. Naruto's gift was to find that same truth through love, softening its intensity with compassion. From this perspective, the sage's original purpose was not to teach techniques, but to plant a seed of remembrance, a faint echo of divinity within human hearts. Chakra, as distributed energy, was that seed. Over millennia, it grew through conflict, maturing with each soul that carried it. Naruto's lifetime marked the moment that seed began to flower. His kindness, his ability to feel others so deeply, may be the first bloom of chakra's awakening consciousness. Even nature itself responds to this process. The forests of Konoha, the deserts of Suna, the mists of Kirigakure, each carries the emotional residue of the people who dwell there. When the world is at peace, the land seems to breathe more easily, as if the earth recognizes the alignment of spirit and matter. The natural energy used in sage mode could be seen as the earth's own chakra inviting harmony. Those who can enter that state are not stealing power, but synchronizing with the planet's pulse. Naruto's perfect sage mode symbolizes his alignment not only with humanity, but with the consciousness of the world itself. There are even deeper interpretations suggesting that the Biju are the world's emotions externalized, and that when Naruto befriends them, he achieves what the sage could not: integration of all feeling without suppression. Rage, sorrow, joy, fear, pride, and hope all coexist within him. This emotional unity mirrors the spiritual one. It is said that when Naruto achieved full synchronization with the tailed beasts, the world itself sighed in relief, as though an ancient tension had finally loosened. The evolution of chakra, if viewed this way, is the evolution of empathy. Each era refines humanity's capacity to feel without losing itself. The sage birthed chakra to connect. Naruto fulfilled that connection. What comes next may transcend even him. An age where individuality remains, but separation ends, where every heart beats in rhythm with the same unseen current that first gave rise to life. There is a lesser-known theory that suggests the Sage of Six Paths was not the first wielder of chakra, but rather its interpreter, the first being to understand and translate the energy that already existed into a form humanity could use. This theory reframes him not as a god or origin, but as the first conscious bridge between the physical and metaphysical. It implies that chakra itself is older than the sage, older than humanity, perhaps as ancient as the planet itself. Long before civilization, before words or jutsu, chakra may have existed as natural energy alone, flowing through mountains, forests, and oceans, the quiet pulse of the earth's own consciousness. The sage did not create it, but awakened to it. When he taught others how to shape that force within their bodies, humanity began to mirror the planet's processes, internalizing its cycles of creation and destruction. In that sense, humans did not gain power over nature. Nature gained awareness through them. This concept ties closely to what some scholars call the planetary consciousness theory. According to it, every world that sustains life eventually develops a spiritual nervous system, a field of energy that links all living things, gradually forming self-awareness. The introduction of chakra into human bodies accelerated that process. Through billions of experiences, billions of emotions, the planet's consciousness refined itself, evolving from mere instinct into understanding. Humanity's growth, with all its mistakes and miracles, may therefore be the world's own journey toward enlightenment. Naruto's story fits perfectly within this framework. His deep empathy, his intuitive ability to sense emotion through chakra, his harmony with nature in sage mode, all mark him as the first human truly aligned with the planet's consciousness. While others used chakra as a weapon, he used it as communication. When he calmed the hatred of tailed beasts and united nations, he was unconsciously performing the earth's will to heal itself. There are ancient scrolls that speak of voices beneath the stone, whispers that certain monks and sensory types claimed to hear when meditating deep within the mountains. These voices were said to speak not in words, but in feelings, sensations of calm, sorrow, or longing that filled the listener's mind. Some theorists believe these were the direct expressions of planetary consciousness, the same energy the sage once encountered. Naruto's connection to natural energy might have been a rediscovery of that original communion between earth and human spirit. If this interpretation holds, then the true antagonist of the Naruto world is not any single person or clan, but disconnection itself, the slow forgetting of unity between humanity and nature. The wars, the creation of weapons like the Bijudama, the exploitation of chakra for dominance, all are symptoms of a species using divine energy without understanding its purpose. In this light, Kaguya's rebellion against humanity represents the planet's immune response to imbalance. When she absorbed the chakra fruit, she may have become a vessel of the Earth's instinctive desire to preserve harmony by resetting civilization. This reframes Kaguya not as a villain, but as an expression of the planet's self-defense. Her attempt to merge all beings into one under the infinite Tsukuyomi could be interpreted as a misguided return to unity, a forced rejoining of the consciousness that had divided itself too far. The Sage of Six Paths, in stopping her, may have introduced the concept of voluntary connection in place of forced unity. Where Kaguya sought assimilation, he offered empathy. Where she bound, he taught freedom. The struggle between them is the world learning how to heal itself without erasing individuality. Naruto, many generations later, becomes the culmination of that experiment. He achieves what both Kaguya and the sage desired, but could not balance: unity without loss of self. His power is not domination, but resonance. Each person he meets keeps their own heart, yet all share his spirit. It is perhaps the most refined state of planetary harmony imaginable. This theory also explains the peculiar way the world of Naruto treats death. Souls can return, reincarnate, or linger in the chakra field without fully dissolving. This continuity suggests that consciousness is not personal, but collective, temporarily localized within individuals. When someone dies, their energy simply returns to the wider field, the same consciousness that sustains the planet. The fact that Naruto can sense and even communicate with this field implies that he is a bridge, not just between people, but between humanity and the world's mind itself. Some even claim that the prophecy of the Child of Peace refers not to Naruto as a person, but to the stage of planetary evolution he represents. He is the first human to act as the Earth's voice, the first to channel its compassion consciously. The next step in that evolution, according to these theories, may not be another hero, but a generation. Children born after Naruto's era could inherit an instinctive sense of empathy, not taught, but encoded into their chakra. The planet would be speaking through them more clearly with each birth. In this view, the concept of ninja might eventually vanish altogether. The very need for techniques and combat would fade as the spiritual resonance between people deepened. Communication through chakra alone could render conflict impossible. This end state, where understanding replaces struggle, could be the final purpose of the sage's teachings. What began as survival would end as enlightenment. Another fascinating angle arises from the connection between the moon and chakra. The moon, as the prison of the Ten-Tails body, acts as a mirror for the planet's consciousness, a reflection that stabilizes the flow of energy. When eclipses occur, or when the moon's power interacts with certain bloodlines, like the Otsutsuki, the balance between planet and reflection shifts. Some believe that the periodic appearance of great wars coincides with disruptions in this cosmic balance. The rise of Naruto, with his bond to the Nine Tails and his alignment with natural energy, may have been the world's way of recalibrating itself, creating a human being capable of harmonizing earth and sky once more. In that sense, Naruto's very existence could be read as a planetary reflex, the world producing its own protector through the consciousness of one of its children. His compassion for even his enemies, his unwillingness to destroy, his instinct to heal, all point to a being shaped not by chance, but by purpose, a purpose larger than human history, the purpose of a world that dreams of peace. Among the many mysteries that surround Naruto's world, few are as quietly profound as the existence of fate itself. Was Naruto destined to change the world, or did he simply choose to? Many believe in prophecy and destiny within the shinobi world, but others argue that destiny is only the echo of collective belief, that the future is shaped not by preordained design, but by the cumulative intention of every soul connected through chakra. In this theory, fate is not a chain, but a frequency. When enough hearts align in the same emotional wavelength, hope, fear, love, or hatred, the world reshapes itself to match that vibration. The Sage of Six Paths, in spreading chakra across humanity, unknowingly created a system where thought and emotion became architectural forces. Reality began to mirror inner states. When despair dominated, wars erupted. When hope took hold, peace followed. The world became a living reflection of consciousness. Naruto's extraordinary power, therefore, might not come from destiny, but from resonance. His optimism, his unwavering faith in connection, radiates outward like sound through water, harmonizing discordant frequencies around him. When he stands in front of enemies and sees them not as monsters, but as people, his chakra gently retunes theirs to match his own. It is not persuasion, but synchronization. The more he believes in peace, the more the world moves toward it. This would explain why his influence seems almost supernatural. Even those who swore to destroy him, Zabuza, Nagato, Kurama, and even Sasuke, could not remain untouched by his presence. He didn't conquer them through strength. He restored them to alignment. Their hatred, their sorrow, all were brought into balance with his unyielding compassion. In this view, Naruto's power is not unique, but natural, the ultimate expression of what chakra was meant to do: harmonize hearts. It is said that the eyes of the sage could see truth, but Naruto's gift was to feel it. His ability to sense sincerity, to feel pain that wasn't his own, is the emotional equivalent of the Rinnegan's perception. Where the sage understood the mechanics of creation, Naruto understood the heart that drives it. The two represent intellect and empathy, the head and the heart of the world's awakening. If one follows this idea further, another theory emerges: that chakra itself responds not to willpower, but to emotional coherence. When one's feelings are unified, chakra flows without resistance. Most shinobi fight with divided hearts. Fear, anger, ambition, and doubt fragment their energy. But Naruto's heart is singular. He never hesitates in his intent, never splinters between thought and feeling. His chakra therefore moves perfectly, unblocked and unconflicted. This may be why his energy reserves seem limitless. It is not quantity, but purity. This theory finds support in the way Naruto's techniques evolve. Every new form he attains mirrors an emotional breakthrough rather than a technical one. The Rasen Shuriken came from realizing how to integrate his own nature into the Rasengan. His mastery of Kurama's chakra came when trust replaced fear. Sage mode arrived when he learned to still his heart and listen to the rhythm of the world. None of these were simply learned skills. They were emotional harmonies made manifest. His strength grew only when his heart did. Some theorists suggest that chakra itself may have a kind of moral alignment, not in the sense of good or evil, but harmony versus dissonance. When used for compassion, chakra flows in its natural pattern. When used for destruction or control, it twists against itself, creating instability that eventually collapses. This could explain why forbidden jutsu often backfire. They disrupt the natural coherence of energy, creating imbalance in both body and spirit. Naruto's refusal to use power selfishly ensures that his chakra remains in tune with the world's rhythm. This perspective reframes the concept of power entirely. The strongest shinobi are not those who master the most techniques, but those who align most purely with their own essence. Each person's chakra has a unique tone, a vibrational identity shaped by their spirit. Techniques merely amplify that tone, but when the tone itself is discordant, the result is chaos. Naruto's chakra, by contrast, sings in perfect resonance with itself, a sound that harmonizes rather than disrupts. This understanding brings Tsukuen's new meaning to the recurring imagery of sound and silence throughout the series. When Naruto fights, there is often a strange stillness before the decisive moment, as though the world holds its breath. In those seconds, the noise of conflict subsides and harmony becomes audible. It is in that silence that transformation happens, not only within his enemies, but within the world itself. The silence is not emptiness, but alignment. Even the symbolism of his parents' sacrifice fits into this theory. Minato and Kushina each gave a portion of their chakra to protect Naruto, imprinting within him a perfect balance of masculine and feminine energy, logic and love, structure and emotion. Their union within him may have created the rare equilibrium necessary for his chakra to resonate at the highest frequency. He is not merely their son. He is their harmony, given human form. There are ancient myths within the shinobi world that speak of a sound so pure it could awaken the dead, the voice of creation. Some interpret this as a metaphor for enlightenment, others as an actual vibrational phenomenon. A few scholars speculate that when Naruto unites people through understanding, he unconsciously channels that primordial sound. Every reconciliation, every moment of forgiveness, is a faint echo of that tone reverberating through the chakra network. It is the music of life, remembering itself. If this is true, then Naruto's greatest jutsu was never the Rasengan or the shadow clone. It was his ability to make others feel seen. That connection, that deep recognition between hearts, is the purest expression of chakra there is. Through it, people rediscover themselves within one another. The divisions between clans, nations, and histories dissolve. What remains is the quiet hum of unity. And perhaps that is what the sage meant when he said chakra was meant to connect all things, not through energy alone, but through feeling, not through obedience, but through understanding. When enough hearts resonate at that same frequency, the world itself changes key. Wars end. Hatred fades. The world does not need to be remade. It simply needs to remember its own song. There is a theory that the shinobi world's entire structure, its nations, its hierarchies, its obsession with legacy, was never meant to last. That the world Naruto inherited is only a temporary bridge, built to help humanity transition from survival to understanding. And once that bridge is crossed, it must eventually disappear. This idea begins with the nature of chakra itself. Chakra is both physical and spiritual, body and soul intertwined. It is energy meant to flow freely, not to be contained. Yet villages, clans, and bloodlines have spent centuries caging it through training, systems, and techniques. Every jutsu is an attempt to control something that was never meant to be controlled. From this perspective, the shinobi system is a necessary but primitive stage of evolution, a child's first attempt to understand the divine. When Naruto was born, the system had reached its limit. Villages no longer fought for survival, but for memory, traditions, honor, vengeance, and fear. Even peace had become institutionalized, bound by treaties and bureaucracy. True harmony cannot survive under such weight. The appearance of someone like Naruto was the world's way of reminding humanity what chakra was before it became a weapon. Connection without condition. His very nature, unrefined, impulsive, endlessly compassionate, rejected structure while preserving purpose. Scholars who follow this theory argue that Naruto's rise marked the beginning of the end of the shinobi era, not because he destroyed it, but because he fulfilled its purpose. The age of ninja was meant to teach humanity how to live as one, and Naruto was its final lesson. Once people learned to trust the flow of chakra within themselves, there would be no need for villages, ranks, or titles. The world would evolve beyond the concept of shinobi entirely. This may explain why Naruto's strongest techniques are those that multiply himself. The shadow. Clone. Jutsu, his most iconic ability, symbolizes dispersion, individuality within unity. Every clone shares the same essence, but acts independently, mirroring the ideal society the world is moving toward. Countless individuals expressing one consciousness. When his clones work together perfectly, they represent the collective harmony humanity is striving to achieve. The jutsu becomes less a fighting technique and more a metaphor for existence. Even the 9 tails within him follows this same logic. Kurama's presence was once seen as a curse, division within the self. But when Naruto befriended him, the conflict became cooperation. 2 beings, once opposed, became one without losing their identities. That relationship mirrors what the world itself must learn. The end of the shinobi era is not about erasing difference, but transforming how difference is perceived. Some theories take this further, proposing that the tailed beasts themselves were were never meant to remain separate entities. They are fragments of the Ten Tails chakra, divided for safety, but longing for reunion. When Naruto united them through friendship rather than force, he accomplished what the Sage of Six Paths could not, restoring the Ten Tails consciousness without reawakening its destruction. In other words, he proved that harmony could achieve what power never could. This realization could mark the beginning of the world's next transformation. The shinobi era, built on control, secrecy, and hierarchy, might eventually dissolve into a new form of civilization, guided by mutual understanding. Jutsu would evolve into pure expression, no longer tools of war, but reflections of creativity and emotion. Training grounds would become meditation grounds. Villages might become sanctuaries, where chakra is cultivated not to fight, but to connect. If chakra is indeed the energy of unity, then the separation into nations and clans has always been temporary, a method for humanity to experience diversity before returning to oneness. Each culture's unique jutsu, language, and traditions are expressions of that diversity. But the more they share their knowledge, the closer the world moves toward synthesis. The story of Naruto may therefore be the final act of an era defined by boundaries. Even the structure of the Hokage, the idea of one protector standing above all, may become obsolete in time. Naruto's leadership style already reflects this change. He rules not through command, but through participation, through presence rather than authority. His strength lies in making others feel equal, not subordinate. This marks the quiet birth of what some call the post-shinobi age, where leadership dissolves into collective consciousness, and peace is maintained not by laws, but by empathy. There is symbolism in Naruto's village itself. Konoha, the hidden leaf, suggests something small yet vital, hidden but alive. A single leaf cannot survive apart from the tree, yet the tree cannot live without its leaves. The village represents the interdependence of all life. When Naruto protects Konoha, he is protecting that unity. But the theory suggests that one day, the leaf will no longer need to hide. When fear vanishes, the hidden aspect will fall away, and Konoha will stand simply as the leaf, open, free, and visible to all. This also connects to the meaning behind the will of fire. Fire spreads. It cannot be contained. The will of fire is the natural expansion of love and protection from one heart to another. When every person carries it, there will no longer be a need for walls, ranks, or leaders to maintain it. The will of fire will become not a doctrine, but the default state of humanity. Even Naruto's journey toward fatherhood reflects this shift. His children are born into a world without the trauma that defined his youth. They inherit peace not through struggle, but through memory. The next generation will not have to learn empathy through suffering as their parents did. Instead, it will be innate, woven into their chakra, inherited from a world that has begun to heal. Some have noted how the symbol on Naruto's cloak, the spiral, appears not only on his clothing, but across ancient ruins, seals, and even the Leaf Village's architecture. The spiral represents expansion and return, the never-ending motion of growth. It is the perfect symbol for evolution through repetition, learning, forgetting, and remembering again. In that sense, Naruto's story may not be the end of anything, but the turning of the spiral itself. Humanity will rise again and again, refining its understanding of unity until at last the need for cycles fades. When that time comes, the word shinobi might be remembered only as a myth, a term from an age when people thought they needed to fight to understand each other. But for now, the memory of that struggle remains sacred. It is the fire that shaped the leaf, the pain that gave meaning to peace. Naruto's life reminds the world that evolution does not come from perfection, but from compassion earned through imperfection. There is a theory that the very nature of chakra is deeply musical, that it resonates through existence in patterns of rhythm and tone. Every heartbeat, every movement of wind or wave, every flicker of fire follows a hidden tempo. When chakra flows through the human body, it vibrates with that same universal rhythm, linking all life in a quiet song that only a few can truly hear. This concept is known among certain spiritual scholars as the harmonic theory of chakra. It proposes that jutsu are not merely energetic techniques, but compositions, melodies shaped through hand signs, tempo, and intent. Each element has its own tone: fire sharp and rising, water fluid and deep, wind clear and high, earth steady and resonant, lightning rapid and cutting. The combination of these tones creates balance or dissonance, peace or destruction. When Naruto fights, his chakra naturally aligns to harmony. Even his most chaotic battles carry a strange sense of rhythm, a balance of motion and silence that mesmerizes those who witness it. Observers have described it as though the world itself moves with him, trees swaying, dust spiraling, energy pulsing in unison. His style lacks formality, but its flow is pure, almost musical. It's as if his body knows the tempo of existence and simply moves within it. According to this theory, the Sage of Six Paths was the first to hear this music of chakra. He did not invent ninjutsu. He merely learned to translate that sound into motion. Each hand sign corresponds to a tone, each seal to a rhythm. Over centuries, those vibrations became codified into language, symbols, and formulas. But the true art was always soundless. The greatest shinobi do not force chakra to obey. They listen to it, joining its rhythm. Naruto, often dismissed as instinctive, might be the closest to the original form of this practice. If chakra is music, then human emotion is the instrument that tunes it. Love softens the pitch, anger sharpens it, sorrow deepens it, and joy brightens it. When emotions fall out of harmony, chakra becomes unstable. This may explain why hatred, fear, or despair amplify power, but shorten life. The vibration grows too intense for the vessel to sustain. Naruto's strength lies in emotional balance. His chakra sings at a stable, resonant frequency that soothes even chaotic energies, like Kurama's. Kurama himself may symbolize the base of the world's melody, the deep, primal vibration that underlies all higher tones. When Naruto and Kurama achieve harmony, the sound of their chakra becomes complete, spanning every octave of existence. This might be why their combined power feels overwhelming, yet peaceful. It is not a roar, but a chord, massive, whole, and unbroken. The harmonic theory also gives new meaning to sage mode. Natural energy could be seen as the purest sound in existence, the vibration of the planet's own consciousness. When Naruto stills his heart and listens, he merges with that rhythm. Every motion, every breath becomes a note in the symphony of nature. In this state, he doesn't summon power. He participates in it. His attacks are not intrusions, but continuations of the world's music. Some theorists claim that this is why the most powerful jutsu often involve patterns, spirals, or rotations. The Rasengan's swirling motion, for example, mimics the spiral resonance of sound waves converging in harmony. The technique is not meant to destroy, but to restore balance, to bring discordant energy back into rhythm through motion. When used against hatred, it breaks through not by force, but by reintroducing order into chaos. Others point to the way Naruto's chakra connects with others in battle. When he distributes his energy to entire armies, those who receive it describe an overwhelming calm, as if their hearts begin beating in time with his. This synchronization resembles musical entrainment, a phenomenon where independent rhythms naturally align when they share the same frequency. If true, it means Naruto doesn't just share power. He shares his rhythm, turning countless individuals into a single, harmonious organism. The idea extends even to communication. When Naruto speaks to others, his words carry emotional resonance that transcends language. People feel his sincerity before they understand it. This, too, is vibration, the transmission of emotional tone through chakra-infused voice. It explains why he can reach the hearts of enemies who have rejected every argument. His message is not intellectual, but vibrational. He changes them not by convincing their minds, but by tuning their hearts. Some believe this harmonic resonance is what the Sage of Six Paths meant when he said, "The world is built on understanding. Understanding is not merely knowing another's story. It is vibrating at the same emotional frequency. True understanding dissolves separation, merging listener and speaker, self and other." Naruto embodies that principle naturally. His empathy is not learned. It is an instinctive attunement to the music of others' souls. There are references in old temples to a lost art of sound release, a forgotten branch of chakra nature once used to heal rather than harm. Ancient monks were said to produce tones that realigned chakra pathways, curing emotional and physical ailments alike. Some speculate that this art was absorbed into modern genjutsu and forgotten, but traces of it remain in Naruto's influence. When he comforts others, when he brings stillness to pain, he unknowingly echoes that lost technique. His voice, his presence, becomes a healing sound. In this light, the wars and conflicts of the past can be seen as centuries of dissonance. Humanity learning to tune itself. The chaos, the grief, the endless repetition of hatred were all part of a grand process of calibration. Each hero, each generation, corrected a different note until finally, through Naruto, the melody reached harmony. His existence marks not the end of struggle, but the moment when the world's song found balance for the first time. And yet, as with all music, silence must follow sound. The peace that comes after great turmoil is the world pausing to listen to what it has created. Naruto's era may be that silence, the interlude before the next rhythm begins. The melody will change, as all things must, but the harmony will remain, carried in the hearts of those who remember the song. One of the most intriguing theories within the shinobi world concerns the nature of memory itself. It suggests that memory is not confined to the mind or brain, but stored directly within chakra. Every emotion, every experience, every word spoken leaves a subtle impression upon one's energy. Over time, these impressions accumulate, forming what might be called a spiritual archive, a record not just of one life, but of countless generations. This idea is sometimes referred to as the ancestral memory theory. According to it, the chakra that flows through all living beings is a shared river of remembrance. When a person is born, their individual chakra draws from this collective stream, carrying faint echoes of ancient lives. These echoes might manifest as intuition, déjà vu, or dreams that feel older than the self. They might also explain why certain individuals, like Naruto, Sasuke, and even Madara, seem drawn to repeat the conflicts of their predecessors. The patterns of history are not learned, but remembered. This could also account for the phenomenon of reincarnation that defines the Uchiha and Senju lineages. What returns is not the soul in the conventional sense, but a spiritual resonance encoded in chakra, a pattern so persistent it reappears again and again, shaping new lives in familiar forms. When people say Naruto carries Asura's will, they might mean that his chakra vibrates with the same emotional code, tuned to the same moral frequency that Asura embodied. Naruto's uncanny empathy could be evidence of this deep memory at work. When he looks at someone and seems to understand their pain instantly, it may not be supernatural insight, but ancestral recognition. His chakra remembers the loneliness of generations, the sorrow of countless wars, the longing of those who came before him. Each connection he makes is less a discovery than a reunion, two fragments of memory finding each other again after centuries apart. This would also explain why chakra responds so strongly to emotion. Feelings are not new experiences, but reactivations of ancient imprints. Anger, fear, love, and hope have been felt countless times before. When they arise, they awaken corresponding frequencies in the collective field. In this way, chakra is both medium and messenger, the energy through which the past continues to communicate with the present. The ancestral memory theory also provides a new perspective on the tailed beasts. Each biju, created from the 10 tails chakra, carries fragments of humanity's earliest emotional memory. Their personalities reflect primal feelings: rage, sorrow, pride, curiosity, joy. When Naruto befriends them, he is not just uniting beasts, but reconciling with humanity's own divided emotions. The beasts are living memories of what it meant to feel before language, pure emotion, unfiltered by intellect. Kurama's evolution from hatred to affection mirrors the healing of that memory. In learning to trust Naruto, he symbolically releases centuries of resentment carried by the world's collective consciousness. His final act of sacrifice can thus be seen as the liberation of that memory, the point at which hatred itself chooses to rest. Naruto's grief after Kurama's death carries the weight of ages, yet his acceptance signifies that the memory of pain no longer needs to repeat. If memory exists within chakra, then the land itself remembers too. The ruins scattered across the shinobi world, temples, battlefields, ancient trees, are not just historical relics, but energetic records. The earth absorbs the emotions of those who live upon it. This is why certain places radiate tranquility, while others feel heavy or sorrowful. When Naruto walks through the Valley of the End, he can feel the echo of the sage's suns clashing long ago. The waterfall's endless motion is the earth's way of keeping that memory fluid, ensuring it never stagnates. Some believe that the great wars were not only struggles for resources or ideology, but attempts by the planet to purge traumatic memory. When hatred accumulates too heavily in the chakra field, the world manifests conflict as a form of cleansing. In this view, war is not random chaos, but a catharsis, painful, tragic, but necessary for healing. Naruto's peace, then, represents not suppression, but integration. By facing the world's wounds with compassion, he allows the collective memory to settle rather than repeat. There are rare individuals throughout history who seem able to consciously access ancestral memory. The Uchiha, through their Sharingan, experience visions of their past lives, sometimes so vividly that the boundary between self and ancestor blurs. The Hyuga, with their Byakugan, are said to see the flow of chakra itself, perceiving not only energy, but the imprints it carries. The Uzumaki, famed for their sealing techniques, may have inherited the opposite gift, the ability to contain memory safely, preserving it until the world is ready to release it. Naruto's bloodline, then, is not just about endurance, but about safekeeping the world's memory within his heart. This idea also casts new light on why sealing techniques often involve spirals and circular symbols. The spiral represents containment without stagnation, motion within stillness, memory stored yet flowing. It mirrors the natural pattern of galaxies, storms, and whirlpools, all forms of energy maintaining balance through rotation. The Uzumaki crest, worn on every leaf uniform, may symbolize not just their clan, but the world's eternal process of remembering and releasing. If this is true, then Naruto's journey was never about discovering new truths, but recalling old ones. His instinct to forgive, to see the good in others, to believe in second chances, all are ancient memories resurfacing. Humanity has always known these truths. It simply forgets. Each hero who appears throughout history is a reminder of something once understood and then lost. Naruto's life is memory made flesh, the world remembering its own compassion. The implications of this theory reach far beyond the shinobi world. If every life carries ancestral memory, then no one is truly isolated. The kindness one person shows, the pain another endures, all ripple backward and forward through time. Each act rewrites the memory stored within the collective chakra. When Naruto chooses mercy over vengeance, that choice doesn't just affect the present. It rewires the emotional memory of existence itself. Future generations, even those who never hear his name, will inherit that gentler pattern. And perhaps that is the real meaning of legacy. Not monuments or stories, but emotional inheritance. The invisible current passed through feeling and intention. The world Naruto leaves behind may not remember every battle or every speech, but it will carry his vibration, the memory of someone who chose to heal instead of harm. That resonance will linger, quiet but unbroken, guiding unseen hearts toward the same understanding for centuries to come. There is a theory that the chakra network within each person is not merely an internal system, but a reflection of the entire universe. The meridians that run through the body, the nodes where energy gathers, even the pulse of chakra that flows with every breath, all mirror cosmic patterns on a smaller scale. In other words, every human being is a miniature version of the world itself. This idea, called the microcosm theory, suggests that the universe is built on self-similarity. The same design that governs galaxies also shapes the body. The same balance of forces that drives seasons also governs thought and emotion. The sage of 6 paths may have understood this when he described chakra as the bridge between heaven and earth, an energy that unites the infinite and the intimate. In this view, training as a shinobi is not about acquiring power, but learning to navigate the universe within one's own form. When Naruto learns to control his chakra, he is unknowingly mastering a cosmic language. Every chakra point he opens is a star reawakening. Every technique an alignment of inner and outer worlds. The spiral of his Rasengan mirrors the spiral arms of galaxies. The rotation of energy in his body echoes the motion of planets. Even his capacity to connect with others reflects the gravitational pull that binds celestial bodies together. Where hatred isolates, love unites, just as gravity draws the cosmos into order. Some ancient records describe the sage of 6 paths as a figure who could touch the sky and feel the stars vibrate. Whether literal or symbolic, the idea conveys that he experienced the unity of scales, the sense that his own heartbeat was not separate from the rhythm of creation. The same could be said of Naruto. In moments of deep emotion, his chakra flares not just around him, but through the environment, as though the world itself breathes in rhythm with him. Mountains tremble, oceans respond, and light itself bends in recognition. The microcosm theory also sheds light on the nature of jutsu. Each element may represent not only a type of energy, but a universal principle. Fire symbolizes transformation. Water symbolizes adaptation. Wind symbolizes motion. Earth symbolizes stability. And lightning symbolizes revelation. To master these elements is to understand the laws that govern existence itself. The 5 natures of chakra correspond to the 5 forces that sustain balance in all things. Those who combine them, as Naruto eventually does, achieve harmony not just within themselves, but with the cosmos. This perspective explains why sages who master natural energy gain extraordinary insight. When Naruto enters sage mode, he attunes his inner universe to the outer one. His senses expand beyond sight or hearing, perceiving vibration itself. He becomes aware that everything, even stillness, carries motion. Rocks hum with quiet energy. Trees breathe light into the air. The world stops being separate and becomes a continuation of his own being. In that state, attack and defense lose meaning. There is only balance, the perfect stillness that moves everything. It is possible that this awareness was what the ancient toads, snakes, and slugs of the summoning realms had guarded for millennia. Their sacred mountains, hidden from human eyes, are not refuges, but resonance points, locations where the world's inner and outer patterns overlap most clearly. Those who reach these places and learn from their guardians gain access to that alignment, becoming instruments through which the world itself acts. Naruto's Sage Mode, achieved on Mount Myoboku, may have restored an ancient link between humanity and the cosmic rhythm long forgotten. The symmetry of Naruto and Sasuke can also be reinterpreted through this lens. Naruto embodies expansion, the outward spiral of creation, warmth, and connection. Sasuke embodies contraction, the inward pull of reflection, solitude, and understanding. Together, they form the pulse of the universe. Inhale and exhale, birth and return, light and shadow. The constant tension between them is the same tension that drives the cosmos. Without it, motion would cease. Their final confrontation at the Valley of the End was not destruction, but alignment. The equilibrium of opposing forces that keeps existence whole. The theory even touches on the origin of the tailed beasts. If the 10 tails was once the planetary consciousness itself, its division into 9 beings may reflect the fragmentation of the universal forces into perceivable forms. Each Biju, with its unique temperament and number of tails, could represent a different dimension of reality, 9 aspects of one infinite energy. Their reassembly through Naruto's compassion symbolizes the reunification of the universe within human consciousness. A particularly striking implication of the microcosm theory is the notion that humanity's spiritual growth directly affects the balance of the physical world. When collective hatred rises, natural disasters become more frequent. When understanding spreads, the world stabilizes. This pattern appears repeatedly in history. Wars followed by storms, peace followed by abundance. If human chakra resonates with the planets, then emotion itself could be the unseen climate of reality. Naruto's victory over hatred may have literally calmed the elements, resetting not only society, but nature. This might also explain the unique stillness of the world at the end of the Fourth Shinobi War. For the first time in history, countless hearts aligned in shared purpose. Every nation fought side by side, every soul resonating in unison. The field of chakra surrounding the planet would have reached unprecedented harmony. The result was a moment of planetary meditation, the earth itself breathing peace. Even the winds after that war seemed different, softer, as though the world had released a long-held sigh. According to this interpretation, Naruto's generation is living through the universe, remembering its own shape. The constant presence of spirals and circles, from the seals and emblems to the very motion of jutsu, all point toward one truth. Everything turns toward itself. Creation is a loop, not a line. The purpose of existence is not progress, but understanding. And understanding, once complete, becomes stillness. The microcosm theory concludes with a quiet idea that when humanity achieves perfect balance within its collective chakra, the universe will hear its own echo and recognize completion. The world will no longer need to exist as physical form because it will have fulfilled its purpose, the awakening of consciousness through experience. The final piece will not be destruction, but return, the completion of the spiral. Naruto's life, then, is a mirror of the cosmos, an individual awakening that hints at the awakening of all. His story is the universe learning to smile at itself through human eyes. Among the more esoteric theories about Naruto's world is one that suggests chakra itself is not the ultimate source of power, but only an intermediary, a language through which something even greater speaks. This deeper force, sometimes called the will beyond chakra, is said to be the foundation of existence, the silent intelligence that gives life its direction. Where chakra connects people, this will connects everything. It is the quiet intention behind all growth, all healing, and all return. The Sage of Six Paths may have only glimpsed it. His teachings of balance and unity were attempts to translate that higher will into human understanding. But like sunlight filtered through water, much of its clarity was lost as it descended into form. The shinobi world inherited the reflection, not the source. Wars and bloodlines were born from people seeking the shadow of truth rather than the truth itself. Naruto's life, in this interpretation, represents a gradual rediscovery of the will beyond chakra. Every time he followed his instincts, forgiving an enemy, trusting a stranger, risking himself for another, he was acting in perfect alignment with it. His choices rarely came from logic or tradition. They came from a deeper current, something that felt right before it could be explained. That quiet knowing may be the voice of the will itself, speaking through him in its most natural form. This theory proposes that the will beyond chakra is not energy at all, but awareness. It does not move through space or time. Rather, space and time unfold within it. Chakra, then, is the echo of that awareness made visible, consciousness condensed into vibration. Every jutsu, every manifestation of chakra, is an attempt to interpret awareness through form. When a person moves in harmony with that will, their chakra flows effortlessly, unburdened by resistance. When they oppose it, energy twists and fractures, giving rise to pain and conflict. Naruto's gift lies in his intuitive alignment with this awareness. He doesn't force change, he allows it. When he meets others in pain, he doesn't overwrite their feelings, but creates space for them to return to balance on their own. His presence becomes a mirror that gently reflects truth until others recognize it within themselves. This is the will beyond chakra at work, transformation through remembrance rather than control. According to this understanding, all suffering in the shinobi world stems from disconnection from that will. Hatred, greed, fear, these are distortions caused when awareness forgets its own unity. Every great villain in history can be seen as an aspect of that forgetting. Madara sought peace through domination because he mistook order for harmony. Pain sought justice through vengeance because he confused suffering with clarity. Kaguya sought unity through assimilation because she feared loneliness. Each acted from partial memory, not full understanding. Naruto's compassion allows him to heal these distortions. He reminds each lost will of its original nature. In forgiving Nagato, in accepting Sasuke, in reaching even Kurama, he restores forgotten awareness to wholeness. This is why his victories never feel like triumphs. They are reunions. He is not conquering enemies, but returning separated fragments of the will to themselves. The will beyond chakra also gives meaning to the repeated motif of eyes throughout the series. The Sharingan, Rinnegan, and Byakugan all symbolize perception, the yearning of consciousness to see itself clearly. The ultimate sight, however, is not through the eyes, but through understanding. Naruto, who lacks any special eye technique, perceives truth directly through the heart. He represents vision beyond sight, awareness that no longer needs form to know itself. In this framework, the evolution of chakra may be the universe's way of refining its self-recognition. Through countless lives and generations, awareness learns to express itself more completely. The end of this process would not be destruction, but transparency, the point where form no longer obscures essence. Humanity's destiny, therefore, is not to wield chakra, but to outgrow the need for it, to live so naturally in alignment with the will that no mediation is required. There are hints of this in Naruto's later years. As peace spreads, technology begins to merge with chakra. Communication becomes instantaneous, and boundaries fade. Humanity moves toward a state where thought and intention can manifest almost immediately. The external world responding directly to the inner one. Some interpret this as the next phase of the will's evolution, where consciousness begins to shape reality without conflict or separation. The shinobi arts, once tools of war, transform into expressions of creation. The world's mythologies support this concept. Long before the sage, ancient people spoke of the silent source, a power that does not speak, yet moves all things. Temples were built to honor it, though none could name it. Some of those ruins still stand, their walls carved with spirals and flowing lines that resemble chakra pathways. The resemblance suggests that even before chakra was known, humanity sensed the deeper order beneath it, a force that guided without command. In meditation, monks describe moments where the distinction between self and world dissolves completely. In those brief instants, there is no thought, no emotion, only the feeling of existing as the same presence that moves the wind and lights the stars. Many believe this is direct communion with the will beyond chakra, the return to the awareness that preceded individuality. The sage of 6 paths may have reached this state permanently, and Naruto, perhaps unknowingly, continues that lineage. This theory also redefines the meaning of ninja. The word originally meant to endure, but endurance, in its purest form, is not resistance. It is acceptance. True endurance is allowing life to move as it must without breaking from it. Naruto's resilience embodies this. He endures not by defying suffering, but by absorbing it, transforming pain into strength without letting it harden his heart. His endurance is the patience of the will itself, which watches over creation without judgment. If chakra is the river, then the will beyond chakra is the ocean. The river moves, the ocean remains. The river reflects the light of the sky, but the ocean holds it. All rivers eventually return to it, losing their names, but not their essence. When Naruto's story reaches its quiet conclusion, it feels like that return, not an ending, but a merging. The will that once acted through him dissolves back into the whole, leaving peace in its wake. And perhaps that is the true message behind his journey. That the ultimate power is not in battle, not in mastery, not even in knowledge, but in surrender. To act without ego, to feel without possession, to live as an extension of something vast and kind. The will beyond. Chakra is the universe remembering its own gentleness, and Naruto, in his laughter and his tears, is that gentleness made visible. There is a final theory, quiet and seldom spoken, that ties all others together. It is called the dream theory, and it suggests that the entire world, the shinobi villages, the endless wars, the peace that followed, might exist within an infinite dream. Not a false dream meant to deceive, but a compassionate one meant to heal. In this understanding, reality itself is an act of mercy. This idea finds its roots in the infinite Tsukuyomi, the ultimate genjutsu that Madara sought to cast upon humanity. For most, that illusion was a symbol of control, a warning against the loss of free will. But some have wondered whether the concept contains a deeper truth. Perhaps, on a cosmic scale, all of existence is its own infinite Tsukuyomi, a benevolent dream woven by consciousness to allow itself to experience, to understand, and to rest. If the will beyond chakra represents awareness itself, then the dream is that awareness exploring its own imagination. Every soul, every village, every heartbreak and reunion might simply be facets of one mind reflecting on itself. Within that grand dreaming, each being plays a role. Naruto as hope, Sasuke as reflection, Sakura as compassion, Kakashi as remembrance, and countless others as fragments of a single thought, the universe wondering what it means to love. Under this light, the Sage of Six Paths could be seen as the first to awaken within the dream. His awakening did not end the illusion, but allowed him to act consciously within it. The same might be true of Naruto. He is not trying to escape reality. He is learning to dream lucidly, to live inside the illusion while understanding its purpose. This is why his battles often end not with victory, but with awakening. His enemies remember who they truly are. The dream becomes kinder because he is in it. The dream theory does not deny the existence of suffering. Pain within the dream is real to those who feel it, but it proposes that even sorrow has a purpose, to remind the dreamer of what matters most. Every loss becomes a signal to return to love, every separation an invitation to reconnect. The illusion is not punishment, but education, a cosmic classroom teaching empathy through experience. This aligns with the recurring motif of eyes in the series. The Sharingan, the Byakugan, and the Rinnegan are all forms of awakening. Each eye opens to a deeper layer of the dream, revealing that perception itself shapes reality. Those who awaken without compassion, like Madara or Obito at first, use that power to manipulate the dream for their own ends. But those who awaken with love, like Naruto, use it to heal. The difference is not in what they see, but in how they see. There are ancient texts that describe the world as the sleeping God, an infinite consciousness resting within its own thoughts. The stars are the fragments of its awareness, the planets its dreams, and life its breath. If that is true, then the shinobi world is one of those dreams, a story told to itself in silence. Naruto's journey from loneliness to unity is that dream slowly remembering that it was never alone. Every bond he forms is a spark of that remembering. Each friend and rival, another heartbeat in the same sleeping mind. When viewed this way, the idea of destiny changes meaning. It is no longer a chain of fate, but the rhythm of the dream's unfolding. Each moment arises naturally from the last, not because of control, but because of coherence. Everything that happens, the wars, the peace, the sacrifices, unfolds with quiet precision, like the turning of seasons within a garden that knows when to bloom and when to rest. Naruto's destiny was never written by the gods or ancestors, but by the dream itself, longing to see its own light reflected in him. The dream theory also reframes the infinite Tsukuyomi itself. Perhaps it was never meant to trap people in fantasy, but to mirror the larger truth, that existence is sustained by imagination. When used selfishly, it isolates. When understood deeply, it liberates. Madara's failure was not that he dreamed, but that he dreamed alone. Naruto's triumph was that he dreamed with everyone. His vision of peace was never forced. It was shared. The illusion dissolved because the dream no longer needed to be separate. Some followers of this philosophy suggest that when people die in Naruto's world, they do not end. They awaken. Death is the moment the individual dream merges back into the whole. This explains why spirits linger, why the dead can be summoned, and why memories persist. The dream remembers itself. To grieve, then, is to feel the boundary between sleeping and waking, between illusion and truth. When Naruto mourns Jiraiya, Neji, or Kurama, what he feels is not loss, but the echo of reunion, not yet recognized. The dream theory finds its most beautiful expression in Naruto's own words. If you don't believe in yourself, then believe in me. It is the dream reminding its fragments to trust in their shared source. His optimism is not naive. It is the recognition that despair is only temporary, that within every darkness lies the memory of light. His unwavering faith in others is the act of a consciousness that knows itself too well to give up. In the quiet ending of his story, when Naruto stands beneath the wide, open sky, there is a sense that the dream has softened. The wind no longer carries the weight of war. The village no longer hides behind its walls. Children laugh in the streets, their futures unwritten and free. It feels like the moment just before waking, when the dream's purpose has been fulfilled and only gratitude remains. But the dream does not end. It continues, gentler now, flowing into new stories, new hearts, and new generations. The will beyond chakra hums beneath it, guiding without command. The memory of old pain becomes distant, like echoes fading over still water. What remains is understanding that the dream was never about power or victory or even peace. It was about remembering connection. If this theory is true, then Naruto's greatest accomplishment is not saving the world, but teaching it to dream kindly. The lesson he leaves behind is simple and endless. That compassion sustains reality, that belief creates beauty, and that even in illusion, love is real. The world, whether waking or dreaming, will continue to turn softly under that truth. And so, somewhere in that infinite dream, a boy with golden hair still runs through the forest, chasing light between the trees. The wind answers him, the leaves whisper his name, and the world, vast, ancient, and endlessly kind, smiles quietly to itself, knowing that the dream is whole again.